now officially underway here between Fnatic Raid Call and BlackFade.org. We just saw a pretty epic game number 1 despite quite a bit of long farming. We saw Era achieve a nice 730 GPM Dark Lady when it was all said and done after a pretty intense match. I'm greatly looking forward to game number 2 here. Of course, I'm Zayori. With me is Breaky CPK. Breaky, reflections from game number 1.
Well, where do I begin? Era, and then Era had a pretty big impact too. So, yeah,
MVP.
Era is the MVP as of lately, as far as I'm concerned, for Fnatic Raid Call. I mean, it not only that game, but it just seems like we haven't. Again, they haven't necessarily been the most active lately because of focusing on other things and just being taken away a little bit. But when we have covered them lately, it just seems like Era just takes over the game for them. I mean, he plays that carry hero, farms 600 plus gold per minute, and then we see the ending result seems to be more in their favor most of the time. So that was just definitely another case of that there. I mean, again, it's not to take away from the supporting cast, because obviously Fnatic as a team definitely played very well as well to ultimately lead them to victory. But I do also want to make the point, as I kept stressing last time, and since I'm doing kind of, I guess, a little bit of a recap, BlackFade, they were disappointing at times, especially with the lineup that they had. It just didn't feel like they were taking advantage of it at all. Earlier on in the game especially, and Smack Donald on the Puppet Master, we kept stressing that the overall hero damage that he had for most of that game, very minimal. And that's not usually a carry style hero that you expect to be so low on the hero damage chart earlier on in the game. So
yeah, that was definitely something we talked about quite a bit. That, I mean, even towards the end, once he kind of was on par, he never really started to shine as far as damage output, and it was definitely a little bit disappointing. Be curious to see what BlackFade does in this game as far as, I'm hesitant to say a more aggressive lineup, because they did have a very aggressive lineup in that last game. They just didn't really play in a super aggressive fashion. We see some bans coming out here and just gazing around, seeing Keeper of the Forest banned right away certainly makes sense here. Of course, Flag actually going to ban Keeper of the Forest. So we'll see what BlackFade can do. I would have thought they might try a pretty intense pushing strategy here in game number 2 to try and curb that long first match. But we'll see. The banning phase just about to finish up here, actually.
And there we go. Oh, no, one more ban, actually. Miscounted, lol. So yeah, one more ban here, and then we will indeed be finished up. But good seeing that Mage Bane ban, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be surprised to see Era pick it up and just do the same thing. But it does make you wonder a little bit if, since Dark Lady worked out so well last game, if that's something that Fnatic's like, if Fly's up there thinking, all right, well, Era dominated with him last game, let's go ahead and try to get him again. But that goes back to being the crazy thing about it. BlackFade, they picked a very good team. I mean, they had a great team to play against a hero like Dark Lady. Everyone had some type of single target CC, or not. I don't want to go that far because I'm actually not sure on that. But they had some type. There was crowd control on the team, a lot of burst damage, a lot of upfront damage. I mean, that's definitely a solid lineup that you usually want to have against a hero that sits back and farms, or the idea is to sit back and farm for the majority of it. And of course, Dark Lady definitely fits that. So it makes you wonder a little bit, if they go with Dark Lady again here, how does BlackFade respond this time? I don't know. But we do see a first pick more Axis right away from Fnatic, so that goes to show you perhaps how highly Fly values him, as picks it immediately. So
definitely. And just one last note about that last game before we look at the bans here, was at the very end when we saw Dark Lady instant use that buyback right before that last team fight at the end of the game. We actually saw their burst potential. We saw how fast they killed Dark Lady between all of those abilities and all that damage they could put out. So, as you said, that roster they had before really should have been an effective counter to that hero. And I think more so than anything, BlackFade really just didn't execute their lineup as well as they could have, more so than being outdrafted or anything like that. So, will be interesting. Regardless, let's take a look at the bans here in this match. Fly going to sort out the bans yet again here with a ban on Parasite, followed up by Pebbles, Keeper of the Forest, as we already mentioned, Mage Bane as well, Tundra, Demented Shaman, Silhouette, and last ban actually going to be on Polywog Priest here from BxF Kezu, which I don't want to say is surprising, but as I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised to see BlackFade try a little bit more of a pushing-intensive strategy. So seeing them ban Polywog Priest last is a little bit intriguing. I don't think Fnatic would have first picked Polywog Priest, but alas, BxF does get Ophelia, who was left over.
Yeah, I mean, may not have first picked him, but I think that is definitely more of a respect ban as well for that No-Tail, because No-Tail, you think Polywog Priest, at least for me, that's definitely the first name that comes to mind. So, they are going to get their next couple of picks here. But yeah, how about that Ophelia Glacius there for the BxF? So we are going to see some Ophelia play. We'll see if Insania takes control of that. He tends to be more their jungle player. And on that note, actually, that's true. He wasn't playing the Tempest last time around. He was playing. Pull it up real quickly. He was playing Glacius, so he was the support. Pablo McDad actually played the Tempest for them. Interesting. But yeah, I do wonder if Insania going to take Ophelia this time around. If once again Pablo may play the jungle, but. Bubbles and Luna, though, the follow-ups for Fnatic right there.
Yep, exactly right. It's a little bit unfortunate that Tempest is actually still on the board. You know, in most cases, we'll see teams, assuming they have a competent Ophelia player, generally pick an Ophelia over a Tempest for the most part. So that really opens it up for Fnatic here. I mean, it makes sense they're going to save that for the last round of picks. I'll be a little bit surprised if Fnatic Raid Call actually doesn't pick up Tempest in their last round. So it is a little bit unfortunate for BxF and something they need to kind of recognize that they're going to have to deal with. And wouldn't be too surprising to see a Pharaoh, perhaps. Maybe not in this round of picks, but as that wild card certainly could fit in pretty nicely. It looks like they're considering an Armadon pick here. Could pair very nicely with Glacius. And along with that, I mean, Pharaoh could certainly work into this roster very nicely as kind of a suicide lane hero. They do have a jungler that will have to pick up 2 solos. You know, even Hag might not be a bad choice as well.
You like to bring up Pharaoh a lot, seems like.
Do I? Do I talk about
Pharaoh? I don't know. It just seems like maybe it's just happens to be coincidence. I remember yesterday, too, you mentioned Pharaoh again as well. So maybe it's just... maybe
hey, man, with a Tempest on the board, they already have a jungler. I'm putting the
Pharaoh is powerful. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Pharaoh is actually a very powerful hero. And yeah,
all right. I'm a fan of the Golden Pharaoh. I think he's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Emperor Pharaoh. Yeah, that is really cool. I do agree.
A few times, you know?
That ultimate. What are these right clicks over here from Black Fate? Okay, I was going to say, fucking Arachna Gemini. That would have been something. But no, Armadon Forsaken Archer here are the follow-up picks for Black Fate. So they are going to go with, try to bring back, or not bring back, but go with more of a tanky style. Even Armadon. We haven't seen him a whole lot lately on the competitive scene. I mean, he did get that nerf to his Armadillo, the sword ability, where it what's that?
Oh, it's 250 now.
Yeah, it used to be 200. They increased it to 250, the damage you need to take. So obviously not as much spine bursting going to come out as a result of that. So
I mean, that's one of those nerfs that really doesn't feel that big to me. Yeah, it's a tweak. Yeah, you know, it's going to help prevent Armadon from going absolutely crazy, especially in that early game. But, I mean...
It's one of those changes that it just adds up over time. It's not going to be your immediate, like, oh, yeah, that really does screw him immediately. In the immediate, it definitely, you know, you could argue it won't. But as fights go on, you know, it's obviously 50 extra damage. That's 100 extra damage for the second one. That's 150 and then 200. So it just keeps adding up and up and up. So, yeah, I don't necessarily think it's enough of a nerf to be like, oh, yeah, no, that's why we don't see him anymore. Because I feel we don't see him much anymore is because it's kind of shifted. And, you know, heroes like Moraxis has stepped up even. Mm-hmm. So, but he still is very powerful. And so I'm not surprised to see him here by BxF either.
Yeah, so the last wave of picks, they are going to go ahead and grab that Tempest. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about that right there, Mr. Breaky. But they did grab Corrupted Disciple as well. Again, not too surprised. Works very nicely against Armadon because of that static discharge. Armadon can't slow him. And, of course, you know, he does run pretty fast to get away from that Armadon as well. So everything's good here. But Jeraziah going to be the last pick, so not going to go for Pharaoh. You know, Jeraziah, certainly a great hero choice instead of Pharaoh.
Yeah. Obviously a big Jeraziah is one of those heroes. If you can manage to last pick him because the other team not necessarily having too good of counters to him, then can be very powerful. I think that's what Black Fate is hoping to accomplish here. First things is you look for they have Electrician or Parasite. Obviously they don't have either. And the next thing I like to look for is who's an ideal Null Fireblade candidate. And Corrupted Disciple, not necessarily. I mean, just because he's a ranged agility hero, he does usually like to build more of a tanky style, if not even something like a Frostburn. But we'll see if that's something that he looks to invest into because now they are going up against the Jeraziah, or if he finds it necessary in the first place. But Jeraziah, you know, paired up with this hero like Armadon especially, I can see be very annoying for this Legion team, especially for Armadon perhaps to go something like a Nullstone. The Protector Charm on stop and a Nullstone, of course, just can be so annoying to deal against. So even if you do get a Null Fire Blade, good luck deactivating it.
Right. What's interesting here is, though, how are they going to lane this? Because it's either going to be Glacius Armadon, which is going to force Forsaken Archer to have a solo lane, which could certainly be rough depending on how Fnatic decides to split up their lanes. I mean, Forsaken Archer, definitely not a hero that does so well in a 1v2 lane. She doesn't really have an escape mechanism and just doesn't have a super effective farming tool early on. Or the converse, of course, they're going to have to leave Armadon solo, which it looks like that's going to be the case. They're going to pair up Forsaken Archer with Glacia. So they're going to have one super aggressive lane, and I guess that is the best way to go about it. Yeah. Armadon certainly does play that solo role very well, as does Jerizaiah. So it's going to be the lanes to the Hellborn side. Of course, both sides with a jungler here. It seems a little bit more rare these days that we see both teams with a jungler, as generally most of them are banned more so than anything else. But Ophelia Tempest is going to be kind of going head-to-head, which is certainly interesting as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest reason at the end, because usually 4 of them, if not at least 3 of them, are even banned. But this time around, Tempest and Ophelia happen to be open, so both of the teams gladly getting either or in this case, so... but yeah, having the Armadon solo top against this Bubbles here, I think he definitely should be able to have a fairly effective time. I'm not too concerned that Mzai will struggle too much. I mean, he is very beefy, of course, and Bubbles, Bubbles, again, continues to be just one of those heroes that it always seems like, in any 1-versus-1 matchup, he never seems to have a too good of a time, but throughout the game, just because of how much gotcha he has and how much team support he has, really how much upfront burst even as well, will prove to be very effective nonetheless. So, but No-Tail playing this Bubbles and Ninja Turtle Bubbles. We'll see how Umzai does on Armadon and how much farm he actually does manage to get. So,
yeah. So down here in the bottom lane, looks like it will be Corrupted Disciple and a Luna facing off against the Glacius Forsaken Archer lane. So that's going to be sort of aggressive on both sides. Both ranged carries going to be going toe-to-toe with one another. But it looks like Insania on this Ophelia will be moving into the Legion jungle for now, and I'll be curious to see where Fly ends up, if he kind of has to combat Ophelia here, or if he just ends up going aggressively as well into the Hellborn jungle. Always interesting to see the two junglers going head-to-head. This is going to be one of these cases where we could be seeing kind of a 2 heads-up lanes and then 6 heroes all focused around this bottom lane.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting as well.
That can cause for some chaos if that happens. So,
also some crafty camera work.
Exactly. Yeah, that's having Ophelia going down there, big point to make, of course. So we are going to come out of this pause now, thankfully. Obviously, had a couple that first game. Hopefully, that is the last one we have for the second game, so we can get things moving on here. But Insania, and sure enough, with that said, Insania, of course, is playing the Ophelia, so that's kind of the question that I did have on whether or not that would actually be the case. So, of course, he is Pablo McDad this time around, actually playing that Glacius role. But yeah, so they know Ophelia's in the jungle now. Obviously, she was spotted right away by a Luna right there. So I do wonder if that's a case of Fly going, all right, maybe I'm going to go to the Hellborn jungle then instead. But it looks like for now he is interested in still staying in his own jungle. So going to have some battle of the jungles. But look at Luna. I mean, Luna really harassing this Ophelia, making it known that not going to give her any type of easy time. But you see Ophelia actually taking over a Vagabond right there. And going to use that as some harassment, as well as some damage control. But yeah, I do wonder if Ophelia spent so much time kind of going at it with this Aluna, how effective that ultimately will be. So, I mean, sure, Aluna is also losing on a bit, but that's kind of to be expected with the role that she's playing in. So,
well, I mean, you're right, but it is keeping Aluna out of the lane, so Corrupted Disciple probably won't be farming as well as he could be, of course, in a 2v1 situation. He's only 1-1, and we see Forsaken Archer is 3-3 now, so Forsaken Archer definitely starting to pull ahead a little bit, as Glacius can be here for additional denies and also some harassment. So it is another positive here from what Ophelia is doing. Of course, doing a nice mana burn on Corrupted Disciple right there before picking up a new creep, so some nice little micro action going on from Insania. Tempest now, he's cleared the small camp as well as that first big camp, and now he's going to bump into Ophelia. Of course, the pull is warded. He's going to take a nice bit of harassment, but Aluna's going to come over, and very wisely here, Ophelia is going to back up. Of course, that power throw stun combo could become quite deadly. Actually doing a nice bit of harassment to Fly here. He's going to be forced to use a Tango as Ophelia goes back to farming here in the jungle. But we could see Insania get collapsed on. There's the conduit. Corrupted Disciple up to about 5 charges. He's going to be hitting like a truck here for the next 10 seconds. But alas, they're not going to commit, so both sides are going to play this a little bit more defensively. Would have thought Ophelia would be dead meat there, Breaky.
Yeah, no, that was, but at the same time, just good support from Glacius coming in when he did, and obviously scaring off the support from the Legion side. And I must say, I mean, I'm initially a little bit concerned on how good this was actually going to be for Insania, but she is drawing a lot of attention. And you see Luna once again going back onto her. Tempest has kind of, his farm has been hurt a little bit as a result of this as well. So I think Ophelia has actually accomplished quite a bit, and I think the big point that you're also making was this bottom lane. How Era right now on Corrupted Disciple only has 4 creep kills comparing to that 11 creep kill and 6 denies for Forsaken Archer. And definitely a big part of that is because Luna's in that jungle focusing so much on the Ophelia. But it seems like Insania's had enough, figuring that she actually does want to start getting some farm herself. And is going to go to her own jungle and start to recover there. So, again, now it comes down to, was that early pressure that she did to kind of sacrificing herself, was it ultimately worth it in the end? You know, it's still definitely up for debate, I think, and something we'll have to see as this game progresses. But I think it did actually have a pretty good impact, though, early on here against this bottom side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the most obvious area, at least right now, where you can see that is if you just look at the farms of Forsaken Archer versus Corrupted Disciple, is now SmackDonald's starting to take off a little bit. He's leading the way by a pretty nice margin, bordering that 300 GPM mark, and Corrupted Disciple's at 100 GPM right now. And I think you could say that's directly because of Ophelia. We see up in the top lane here, going to be engaged onto Bubbles, so Insania continuing to stay very active. Bubbles is going to have enough mana for his Shell Surf thanks to that mana battery, and he is going to port back to safety. So that is good news for Bubbles in the top, but still Insania really doing an effective job. That's going to open up this lane for Armadon, who's been farming better than Bubbles anyhow. He's now at 300 GPM, and Bubbles forced back to the well, of course, is going to give Umzai here even more time to farm. So although Insania is kind of sacrificing himself here, really being a true support player in this match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. He is. I mean, he is level 1 still. That is something to... you can't go over or take too out of control, because... the fact that he's still level 1, that he is behind quite a bit in this game. Keizu, by the way, in the middle lane, was harassing Hani a lot right there. Playing that Meraxis, he had a haste rune activated. Definitely nearly got the kill, in fact, for that Bloodlust kill, but just not enough damage to accomplish that. So, I'm going to go back, but Hani doing a good job at the same time, standing his ground. Of course, has his bottle, unfortunately, out of charges right now, so... I wonder if he actually has some regen planning to go to him, but of course, when you're going up against a Jerizaiya, you're not necessarily too worried about getting ranged attack, other than if you stand next to a creep, then if he heals it, then you will die. So that is something that he will have to keep in mind. In fact, we see right... God, that is getting so close. I feel like if Jerizaiya catches him right here, he could get the kill if he goes back out. And you see him actually using his axe, though, to actually... He knows, too, that if he goes right next to the creep, that if that holy light comes out, or inner light, he will be dead. So health potion is delivered, and he's going to be fine in the end. On the top lane, though, I do want to kind of break down this a little bit and see how it's going. Bubbles 14-3 compared to your 30-11 Armadon. And Ophelia, obviously, as we kept stressing, she wasn't really up here. I mean, she was up here for just now for a little bit, but I think Armadon, safe to say, he's actually been having a very good time up here against No-Tail on this bubble. So good job by Umzai.
Yeah, exactly right. Now we see No-Tail doing a pretty effective job, though. And again, No-Tail not opting for that Ring of the Teacher here, as we see him getting really aggressive. Those spines doing an absurd amount of damage, though. Yet again, seems in kind of true No-Tail style, going for very early boots. He's going to turn them into Striders here nice and early as well, but still opting for no Ring of the Teacher, which I find a little bit interesting against an Armadon, as we can see those spines really starting to add up. The Rune going to spawn down here in the bottom. Tempest actually going to be able to run down and pick it up. It is a haste. And I think he's going to be able to do a hell of a lot with it, though he may move into the lane here and try and set up a gank. He's still level 5, of course, so no ultimate. But Forsaken Archer may have hung around a bit too long. She does have Ghost Marches. Nice freeze from Glacius, going to keep Tempest back. A nice volley as well, going to catch both Glacius and a Luna, or pardon me, a Tempest and a Luna. But they do turn it around, and wow, Fly picks up that kill onto Pablo McDad. But SmackDonald does manage to turn around onto Fntc. So 2 supports exchange, but of course... Fnatic coming out ahead with that bonus Bloodlust.
Yeah, no, I think, though, Black Fade, I mean, I think they came out on top there in the sense that that could have been a double tap kill, and no one could have died on Fnatic. And how it was setting up, obviously with 3 versus 2 with the hasted Tempest, as he put it, it looked like that was going to be happening, but that was just better play on their part, reacting to it. Meanwhile, at the top lane, though, Armadon will go down to Bubbles. You see Ophelia coming in. Ophelia's level 3, though. Needs to be careful, but she's going to apply enough pressure to Bubbles to force it to fall back. He's going to use a mana battery. Unfortunately for him, though, doesn't have enough mana just yet for that Shell Surf, but it will be enough to be able to walk away and be fine. So, but, Bubbles, again, I was catching that bottom action. Not able to see how it necessarily happened up here, but able to take out Armadon, even doing a little bit of tower diving in the process, it seemed like. So I got to feel like Umzai maybe was sticking around a little bit too long right there. with not enough life on him, but well played by No-Tail, no doubt.
Exactly, and again, we're just talking about No-Tail not having a Ring of the Teacher. We see Unzai here without any kind of magic armor, and against Bubbles, especially at level 6, we talked yesterday, that's a hero you need to watch out for, especially in a solo role where he's able to pick up that experience and hit level 6 and level 7 on par with all of the other solo heroes. He becomes really scary very fast. He can put out a lot of damage, and all of its magic damage. So I would expect to see Unzai here invest in some magic armor pretty damn quick, though he did just pick up a Guardian ring, so he's going to be moving into that Ring of the Teacher first, but still interesting. Find these item choices in that top lane definitely a little bit interesting. We see the Rune here, beautiful path blocking from Hani, but unfortunately just not quite enough as he doesn't have boots. Jerzai going to be able to pick it up. He's going to use an Inner Light, going to use the ultimate as well, though I'm not sure it's going to be enough to stay alive. He's totally out of mana. And, of course, can't drink that regeneration rune. Everybody on top of him here. Ophelia going to come in. If she can land a stun, this could be his opportunity to drink that regen. And there it is. Ooh. Bubbles. Oh, he is going to use the Shell Surf, but he gets the repel, and that will absorb some damage. I think we're able to turn this around. Bubbles falls when it's all said and done. Beautifully played by Jerizaiah in the hands of Kezu right there.
Wow.
Still alive now, sipping up that bottle. It doesn't look like they'll be able to turn around onto Hani, but they do manage to pick up one kill onto No-Tail.
Wow, that was epic. If I ever saw an epic play, what a play right there. Glacius in the meantime at the bottom lane, by the way, is going to go down to Fntc and Era, but wow, that was a hell of a play from Kezu especially. I mean, Ophelia, good timing on her part too, coming in there with the Minotaur. A little bit late on the stun. I was kind of wondering when it was going to happen. She had a chance to actually stun both, it seemed like. But maybe that worked out for the better because that allowed Bubbles to continue to play aggressive as actually Fntc goes down here as Forsaken Archer using those piercing arrows to snipe her out. But great heads up by Kezu to not only protective charm himself right as that shelter was about to hit to finish him off, but then also run the other direction and then Inner Light his Ophelia teammate who was standing right next to Bubbles, of course, to not only get her healed up, but do the damage to him, eventually get the kill on him. I mean, that was just excellent heads up and excellent turnaround right there from Kezu and Insania. So well played on their part. But as I was kind of rambling on there again, more kills were happening at the bottom lane. 1-for-1 going on. More kills may still be happening. There's that Tempest. Oh, they're going to lock it down. Glacius will fall. Forsaken Archer goes down as well. And Era's like, double tap kill. See ya, bitches. I'll gladly take that. 10 minutes into the game right now. Corrupted Disciple stepping it up a little bit. I mean, his creep farm hasn't been the greatest, but he is now 2-0-2, and he has passed a 200 goal per minute mark now. So that goes to show you how struggling he has been, but he is recovering now, and that's bad news here for BxF.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we see a big difference, or that huge difference that was between Forsaken Archer and Corrupted Disciple. Now pretty closed. I mean, it's within 50 GPM or so, and if they're able to take out this tower, I mean, that could be absolutely huge as well here. Looks like all 6 of the Tempest Elementals doing quite a bit of damage, and the tower is going to fall. Not going to get denied. A nice attempt from SmackDonald, but unfortunately not going to be timed quite properly enough, and Fly will be the one to pick up that tower kill. So now Corrupted Disciple even further on the rise, and nipping at the heels of Forsaken Archer, who is 2-1-0. So both of them now with 2 kills apiece. Other than that, actually Tempest and Armadon, the #1 farmers for their respective teams. Tempest actually leading the way in this game. Of course, that tower kill helping quite a bit. All the while in the top lane, though, Ophelia and Armadon putting some pressure on the tower. Unzai going to be the one to pick up the tier 1 here in the top lane.
Yeah, that's good news for Black Fate. So it seems like Armadon, obviously that death earlier definitely slowed him down a bit, but at the same time, he is still remaining the top farm of the game now. Helm of the Black Legion, Little Red Booties, Ring of the Teacher. Looking not too shabby. I just still agree with you. I think that the Mystic Vestments earlier on the later could still prove to be a very worthy investment here. Look at Ophelia. Not only did she take over the Catman Champion, but she also took over his little buddy in the Catman Soldier right there. Not too often you see him being taken over, but maybe that was the case that just quickly wanted to take them over and go to the next camp, as they are both, even the Catman Soldier, I mean, he's actually got a good amount of life as well as decent damage, so use him to maybe tank and also assist some damage and getting some creep kills here. Maybe the best for the situation. Bottom lane in the meantime, Corrupted Disciple coming in. The great kill on top of that. And Bobbles doing a good job of setting that up for Arrow once again to clean it up. Well played from Fnatic right there. But you see Armadon just continuing to push the top lane while this is happening. But still, I think Fnatic really is trying to get some good teamwork going on right now as this game progresses. And Corrupted Disciple, man, I mean, he was struggling. I mean, he was at 130 gold per minute for early parts of this game at best, and now here he is at 275, 3-0-3 already. So, Era, not your typical creep farm status of just being way up there, but when it comes to hero kills and heroes assists, he's been involved, and that proves to be good for them.
And I mean, you have to give a lot of credit for Fly on that Tempest for supporting this bottom lane, recognizing that Corrupted Disciple is struggling, especially compared to Forsaken Archer. I mean, he's just putting non-stop pressure on this lane, and as we can see here, setting up that last gank and then trying to put some pressure on this second-tier tower, forcing Armadon and Glacius to pour it in. So Fly really having an active role in this game, sort of like Insania was earlier on, though Ophelia's definitely slowed down a little bit as he's been trying to recover from some of that early farm that he missed out on. And he's actually done that pretty successfully here as he's sitting level 7. He's kind of on par for the course right now. If you look at that XP per minute chart, definitely a little bit lower, but still in pretty good shape. Forsaken Archer actually pretty low on the experience per minute tab as well, which could prove to be, well, a little bit difficult for them as this game progresses. The inventory of Corrupted Disciple is getting close to that Helm of the Black Legion. Does have those 2 core pieces and just waiting on that last 250 for the Stout Shield or the Iron Buckler here, and that'll make Corrupted Disciple a little bit more of a scary carry as well.
Yeah, Helm of the Black Legion for him. That tends to be more the item of choice on himself. Again, that goes back to the idea that he likes to be pretty beefy amongst these team fights, but he is going to be joined by Armadon down here at the bottom lane, who has decided to come down here and maybe start some harassment himself. I love what Jerizai Morax has continued to do, though. Hani and Keizu have just continued to have a back-and-forth bout here in the middle lane. They just keep going back and forth with one another. Morax just keeps throwing those chainsaws of him at him, and Jerizai just keeps running up to him and then throwing out the inner light. He does have level 2 Righteous Aura, so that 14% movement slow, pretty good. Ophelia actually going to trap onto Morax's right. Oh, the Cabin Champion slow will hit. Nice Quake Stun, though, from Hani to help him get away. If Ophelia was able to react maybe a second quicker right there, they could have very likely set up a kill, but it seemed like he just wasn't able to block him nor get that Minotaur stun out. Maybe it was on cooldown, but weren't able to set up the kill. But look at this, Black Fade grouping up together here in the middle, and everyone minus Forsaken Archer. They're going to massive push this middle lane. I don't think Fnatic's going to really do much to stop this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that they're too interested in posing much of a defense, and indeed not. They're just going to sack that tower, no problem here. They're just going to keep farming away. I mean, Corrupted Disciple does have an open lane down here in the bottom, so no surprise to see him continuing to farm. And it's like our Hellborn side may actually continue putting some pressure on Ophelia with her army of Catman champions and that Singleton Minotaur sort of chasing back Bubbles here. So, yeah, I mean, Black Fade definitely getting a little bit more aggressive. Going to push 2 towers now. Of course, ahead now 2-1 in the tower count, which is certainly good news. And I like that they're grouping up. This is right about that time where they have that synergy. Of course, the Jerizai ultimate off cooldown. A lot of potential to put some pressure on these towers. And if, Fnatic Raid Call opts to engage this, they're still going to have, quite the strong ability to try and thwart those efforts. Even this tier 2 tower here in the top lane is kind of dangerously low thanks to some of that early pressure from Armadon.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's below half live. In fact, it's going to go down here. It's just a matter of will it be denied or will it be taken out by our Hellborn team. You see Inner Light going to be used right there with Jerizai as he comes up and throws out the heal bomb on the creep wave. Also the Ophelia heal coming out after that to get everyone beefed up again and ready to go with this next creep wave. Pretty much making the statement that they are going to commit to something right here. Obviously, Jerizai has that Soul's Blessing, so that's a big thing to keep in mind. And here we go. Protective Charm going to be applied to himself, actually, by in comes Corrupted Disciple Moraxis, and they're going to look to try to get something in tablet on Moraxis right there. He gets in range of Ophelia, and Ophelia is a dead bunny in the road right now. There's no way she's getting out of there. She will fall to the ground. Nice silence on a Jerizai on the miss of that as well, so he wasn't able to do much else. The heal bomb was already on cooldown, of course, though. But Hellborn team, complete retreat mode right now this whole time. So they are, well, they might start coming back a little bit right here. Armadon turning it around, turns his back, though. There goes a heal from Jerizai, and the Protective Charm comes up. So a lot of back and forth happening between these two teams. The uncertainty of when they want to fully commit or not. There goes the Soul's Blessing activity, though, from Jerizai, trying to save Glitches in the background. And Armadon is still chasing, but look at the Legion team. They're just sticking together, running away. Tempest does have a ultimate ready to go if you can find that opportunity. And there's that count for though. The Jerizai's Protective Charm going to be applied to Armadon right there, but Jerizai will fall shortly after. And now Armadon may need to think about getting out of there. The Protective Charm going to be wearing off soon. But in comes Ophelia. This battle, man, what is going on? It just keeps on going.
This is ridiculous. I mean, both sides just completely back and forth. Nobody wants to overstep their bounds. Nobody wants to overcommit here, and both sides are just continuing to go back and forth. All the while, though, Black Fade pushing this bottom tower. Forsaken Archer been free farming, going to be able to pick up a solo tower kill. So when it's all said and done, kind of regardless of the kill exchange there, you can give a lot of credit to Black Fade. for doing what they were doing there in a 4v5 situation. And now SmackDonald's farm looking pretty damn good, now up to 330 GPM.
Yeah. That's very true. And I think that's where, Black Fade, again, kind of one of those cases of maybe combine a little bit more on top of that to fight overall, more to their favor, simply because Forsaken Archer was just down there in the bottom lane, doing her own thing while all of that fighting was going on. So if anything, that was just pure distraction by BxF, and they accomplished that. They definitely did. Obviously, the tower ended up staying alive, and so a little bit wrong there. I expected that tower to be dead 100%, but no, with the way that fight played out, it does stay up, and the Legion team will at least have it for a little bit longer here. But Forsaken Archer, she's looking better and better now, as you just mentioned. I mean, she's got that Firebrand finish well on her way to her Geometer's Bane here. So always very good news, of course. Armadon going to go into the jungle now and continue to enhance his farm on top of that, as he continues to lead the way, by the way, at 360 gold per minute and counting. So, yeah, things looking pretty good here for BxF, but not to get too ahead of myself, I still think Fnatic also at the same time, they obviously not too shabby themselves, just seem to be a step behind our Hellborn team right now. Only 18.5 minutes in, though.
Yeah, I mean, we are still in a pretty close game here. For only 18 minutes, Hellborn's side ahead in gold, slightly behind in experience. It's still anyone's game for the taking, obviously. Let's get the farms to the two carries. Corrupted Disciple leading the way for the Legion team above the 300 GPM mark. Of course, Forsaken Archer, a little bit of a leg up on him, but not by a hell of a lot. Nothing that a couple of minutes of farming can't cure. All things considered, though, I mean, this Hellborn team, it's looking pretty good. Seeing Armadon with GPM that high, and also Keza, I mean, at 325 GPM with this Jerizaiah, as you mentioned earlier on, just going back and forth with Hani in that mid lane, that kind of unrelenting presence from both sides actually allowed him to farm quite nicely and start to pull ahead that of Hani a little bit. We're going to see Devastator in a little bit of trouble. Jerizaiah with that invisibility is going to go straight in and use the inner light. A little intrigued to see him not open with an auto attack, but regardless, still going to initiate things here. Bubble's going to throw the Shell Surf, not going to engage it though. Ophelia going to go ahead and use that Astrolabe to heal up the team. Still has that ulti, and it looks like we'll see Black Fade just run for the hills here. Ophelia going to get out with all of her minions still intact, still with that small little Catman soldier. Up in the top lane, though, the Tier 2 tower does fall to the wrath of Armadon, although he's going to get collapsed on 4v1, and it looks like Mzai is going to pay the ultimate price. Not a hell of a lot he can do, trying to turn the back to do as much damage as possible, but alas, he is going to get taken down. No tail on that bubble. He's going to get credit for the kill.
Yeah, but as you said, definitely got the tower kill. I mean, that really was the case. He really committed to the tower kill. He saw the ports coming in. He still stood there wanting to make sure that he finished off the tower. So really a case there of Mzai saying, you know what, I'm probably going to die here, but just as long as I make sure to at least get credit for myself. And that he accomplished. But you definitely can argue whether or not that was the most efficient use of that time. But Tempest, in the meantime, and that puzzle blocks pickup, how you were so used to seeing more of the idea of just going straight for the portal key. But if not, there has been times recently where we see the early Astrolabe and more of just support build, not even necessarily going for that portal key earlier on. But I definitely love the puzzle blocks pickup here, and for really both Jerizaiah, but especially Armadon. I mean, if you can burn that mana on Armadon, and obviously the puzzle box minion will be able to accomplish that, it takes away a lot from him if he can't spam those spines of his with his W, let alone even his Q, to get that stun on, to get that minus armor stacking as well as the slow stack. So I definitely like that choice here from Tempest. The obvious, though, it will take away from that strong initiation opportunity from a Tempest being able to jump in there. But at the same time, they do have more access with that portal key now. And, so he's going to be the one to kind of jump in there and get things started. And maybe if he can get in range with a good kill field, get things going. Jerizaiah and Ophelia, though, going to be cleaned up there. I was watching that on my camera, just not commentating on it the whole time. But huge pick right there for the Legion team. Great kill field once again from No-Tail's Bubble. And they're gonna make a push here in the middle lane because of that kill. So in fact, Armadon getting caught here with the Glacial Blast. I don't think it's gonna be enough for a kill as he has his back turned, but still, Fnatic, that's definitely a big pick for them right there, as they're gonna now fall back and continue to farm in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, both those heroes are farming very, very nicely for the Hellborn side, so to slow them down, we actually see now, again, Era going to overtake SmackDown a little bit on the GPM chart, but that really gives a huge experience lead now to Fnatic Raid Call up to about 7.5k, though the gold deficit is just about even, and most of that is just straight towers. You see Fnatic's already lost 4, and they've only been able to push one of their own. So once they get a couple of towers, we're going to see how far ahead they actually are, at least at this present point in time. Right there, we saw the power of Bubbles against those really important heroes like Jerizaiah. He really couldn't do much. He couldn't cast Silence because of the Song of the Sea and then enough damage follow-up that he couldn't even get that ultimate off. Couldn't use the Inner Light to turn things around. Of course, Forsaken Archer sort of just crumbling amidst all that pressure. So, again, a great pick from Fnatic Raid Call. Though they're going to have to do something here. It looks like their Tier 2 tower in the mid lane going to take a lot of pressure from this Hellborn team. Ophelia with the illusions going to come in, and this tower's taking a hell of a lot of damage. Up in the top, Corrupted Disciple is just going to push. It looks like Era's going to try to pick off a tower of his own, though it is at remarkably high hit points. The rest of this Legion team going to hang around, going to go in for the deny. Well done by Hani, going to use that chainsaw to prevent the gold boost there for the Hellborn side as we see BxF headed back to friendly territory. Is Era going to have enough damage to finish off this tower in the top? And it's looking like it. It's getting dangerously low. One port coming in. Will there be more to follow? It doesn't look like it. Forsaken Archer just going to use the volley onto the creeps. The tower is in deny range. Era, without too much vision, doesn't want to hang around for too long. I believe he did get sight of Ophelia headed up here. So unfortunately, that Tier 1 tower is going to be denied as well.
Yeah, that was Era. He wanted to, man. He was going back and forth, back and forth. I thought he was going to go back in, especially knowing Era. He tends to play pretty confident sometimes, but this may end up working out right here. Moraxis jumps in with the portal key. Forsaken Archer in a lot of trouble. The conduit's applied, the overload's activated, and there's the kill right there on a Forsaken Archer. 5 charges on the conduit, gets him hitting for 193 maximum damage already, and easily takes out Forsaken Archer. So definitely proving to be the right decision there from Era to fall back when he did. Sure, the tower got denied, but they got the hero kill in the end on Forsaken Archer. Again, it's very well coordinated on their part. Excellent communication between Hani and Aaron right there.
Yeah, I mean, that actually puts Aaron now 5-0-6. He is yet to die, and although his gold farm isn't totally off the charts, and he's been having a hell of a game so far. 5-0-6 is nothing to be ashamed of. Forsaken Archer sitting 2-3-0. So that really shows the difference in kind of their creep score, though they're actually tied at 120 creep kills right now. And for the first time in this game, we see Era actually pretty far ahead of the likes of SmackDonald here by a pretty nice margin. Down in the bottom lane, yet again, Jerizaiah and Glacius going to get caught. There's that Tempest ultimate to follow up. And again, all about that crowd control to prevent Jerizaiah from getting that huge ultimate off to save the day. Alas, him and Glacius are taken out fairly handily by Fnatic Raid Call. Another fantastic pick.
Yeah, locking down that Jerizaiah, as you keep stating, man. I mean, that's been huge by Fnatic, and obviously that's... How do you defeat a Jerizaiah? Well, you could argue one way is to get that Nullifier Blade and be ready to purge off his abilities, or two is don't allow him to cast him in the first place. Lock him down, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So that puzzle box was just upgraded. I believe that means it's level 2 now, as indeed it is for Fly. So he's going to have a level 3 puzzle box in the very near future here, and that's going to be a good chunk of mana burn for him, like I said, against that Armadon, against Jerizaiah. It could be nearly a full mana burn on this Forsaken Archer even. So will prove to be very, very useful for them, as amongst other things. Armadon, a lot of pressure at the bottom lane. Going to survive, though, as now Moraxis gets caught, and Moraxis very likely going to fall. He does have a regen rune bottled up, but not going to find the opportunity to use it, so down he goes, and that would just happen to be a better response from Black Fade. Jerizaiah coming at the last second, wasn't even there for all of that, but still, again, Forsaken Archer, I think, definitely a big part of that as well. So, good turnaround from Black Fade, but right now, I mean, see, look at the gold. The gold is actually fairly even, but the experience lead, 10,000 experience lead for Fnatic Raid Call right now. We're coming up to that 26-minute mark, and that is showing a level 15 Corrupted Disciple up to with 3 level 13s as well. So the experience per minute right now, big time in favor of Fnatic, and that is a big deal. But we got some split pushing going on from both of these teams here.
Yeah, it looks like this Tier 2 in the bottom lane going to be the first tower to fall, and I think Fnatic Raid Call should be able to finish off this tower. The question is going to be who's going to port back in this tricky Game of Thrones here that is base racing / tower racing. Looks like down the bottom lane, Fnatic going to have to defend their base pretty quick here as Black Fade is putting some pressure on the Tier 3 tower. Down to about half health already. I don't know if there's a glyph available here for the Legion side, but they're going to have to make something happen. Do they have that Tempest ultimate? No, they do not. So this is really a nice read from Black Fade. The tower's going to fall. Bottom lane of Rack's going to be exposed now, and we'll see if they can finish off the barracks. That could be absolutely huge for Black Fade, though. They're playing this very cautiously, not looking to overcommit here, but need to be a little bit careful. Now the melee Rack's taking a pretty good bit of damage, down to about half health. Pretty soon here, Fnatic Raid Call is
look at Bubbles in the background.
Kind of a response. Oh, there he is. Bubbles with the invisibility rune. There's the Kelp that actually only get connected with 2 heroes, but that is going to set up for a nice engage. Looks like Jerizaiah's going to get taken out. He does manage to get the ultimate off, though. Very, very close call for Jerizai. Now we're going to see Tempest fall, as will Hani, and this is not looking good for Fnatic Great Call at this point. Two of their heroes down. We see that Charmed Armadon in the front lines. Looks like he's going to be able to finish off Fitscale on that Aluna. And this ranged, or this melee and ranged barracks for that matter, both going to fall here, no doubt. I don't think there are any buybacks available for the Legion side. Nope, not at all. So they are going to lose a bottom lane of racks here. I'll be honest, Breaky, I didn't really see this coming when we saw that Tier 2 tower race. I didn't quite think it was going to get to some racks.
Well, Jerizai, as simple as that. They committed quite a bit right there to try to make sure to kill Jerizai before he could get off that Soul's Blessing. Bubbles with that Invisor, and he had great placement, but also, like you mentioned, I mean, he only got 2 targets with that Kelphin. It seems like he even could have got all 5 at a point, but wasn't able to just find that right placement. So only got 2. Not that necessarily was the biggest deal by any means, but yeah, he obviously jumped Jerizai then with the Song of the Sea silence, and then Moraxis came in with a stun, but they didn't have enough burst damage. Corrupted Disciple, unfortunately, wasn't able to join them. He was actually busy being occupied by, I believe it was Armadon, if not somebody else. And so because he wasn't able to get up there and assist damage on the Jerizai was spamming that R, I'm sure, was able to get off the Soul's Blessing, and eventually turn it around, or help turn it around at least, for BxF's side. So that's why we saw right there quite the overwhelming push. And I must say, I mean, these stats, a little deceiving, because right now, the experience lead still pretty good in favor of BxF. I mean, they do have a 3,400 gold lead now on their Hellborn side, but they're losing 15-7 in hero kills. Yet they're winning this game. I mean, I think it's okay. Well, that I guess is kind of a strong word at this point, because so they did get the bottom racks, and that is huge. But it's tough to say. It really is.
It's a weird game. You know, having both sets of racks down, the ranged and the melee, I think that does give BxF a little bit more of an edge, but I think what you're getting at is, even though they're winning, it's far from over. Fnatic Great Call is still ahead as far as hero power, though now their kind of map presence is a little bit thwarted. They're going to have to be very cautious about this lane, obviously. So it is weird, though. It's a weird balance where one team has way ahead in hero kills, hero experience. Corrupted Disciples the highest level in the game by kind of a nice margin here, really a leg up over Forsaken Archer by a pretty good amount. Meanwhile, they're down a lane of racks. That's just not the case. It's usually, if you're losing a lane of racks, it's because you're also losing in hero kills, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, though. Very interesting how this game's working out.
It is.
We'll see. I mean, partially the power of Jerizai and Ophelia on the same team. I mean, that's a lot of healing pressure to put out on one side, especially with an Armadon. You know, at the very beginning of the picking phase, you mentioned that charm on Armadon. And in that last fight, we saw how powerful that could be, as well as he actually now has a demonic breastplate. So he is tanked out of his mind, magic armor, physical armor, and plenty of hit points to go around.
Yeah, and I think getting a Hellflower here for this Legion team is tip-top priority at this point, especially with how they're playing it. And basically, they are making the point that we need to kill Jerizai ASAP. Moraxis, for some reason, pushed way up here at this top lane. I mean, he may be able to portal kill away, actually. Oh, the Frosted Skull hits, and no, he's not going to be able to. So he will go down. By the way, Frosted Skull on Forsaken Archer, as I was just talking about it. So he has that now. But yeah, what was I saying? I totally forget now. Damn it. Anyways.
Well, we are seeing, one thing that we can talk about with this Frostwolf Skull is we did see the Frostburn first split into the Frostwolf Skull, and now with the Firebrand, so that what I think of as sort of an older style with these ranged carries is definitely coming back. This is definitely a pretty old strategy here to get that first and split. Working quite nicely for SmackDonald in this game, at least now sitting 5-3-1, and I mean, he's starting to hit pretty damn hard with that Frostwolf Skull for sure.
Oh yeah, it was Hellflower, that's what I was saying. Yeah, the Legion team, I think Hellflower is... They need one. I mean, because again, their really big focus is locking down the Jerizai, killing him ASAP, and then working around that. And if they have an item like a Hellflower, of course, they very likely could accomplish that. But I mean, we saw that last fight. They just didn't have enough burst damage to take him out through the CC that they had with the Song of the Sea and the Moraxis stun, and was able to keep him alive. And as soon as he got the Soul's Blessing off, then the whole fight just seemed to turn around like it tends to do from all the time, really. So, and now Storm Spirit actually just purchased by Ophelia, so that could make things even more difficult. If they do happen to jump Jerizai, as long as he gets Storm Spirited, can protect him quite a bit. So, I still think there is, by all means, hope here for Fnatic, and again, those stats continue to be a little bit deceiving, but they are no doubt in an uphill battle here, because Armadon, he continues to get much bigger and better, and he's been doing that this whole game. But Forsaken Archer, man, I mean, she is now reaching that 400 gold per minute mark. So SmackDonald's here Definitely having a much better game than he had last time around, I think, at least with the Puppet Master game. Going on Forsaken Archer this time around, having a much, much bigger impact like he needed to be. So, well on his way to perhaps that Geometer's Bane, and Kongor's up, and what looks like a Hellborn team is actually interested in doing it, but obviously a Ward of Sight here for Fnatic, so not going to be easy by any means. Bubbles did Shell Surf right there, and he actually may be in a little bit of trouble. He will Talbot himself forward, so he will be fine, but No Tail nearly getting himself caught out in a pretty bad spot. But yeah, here we go with the Kongor attempts.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, right there, that's how it's saving Bubbles. He is going to finish off that ward, as he does have a ward, or a, oh my gosh, pardon me, I got the hiccups now, a Bound Eye. And he's going to be able to finish off that Ward of Rev as well. You know, you mentioned the Hellflower coming on. Should be a priority for this Legion team, and I would definitely agree with you. Bubbles would probably be the most likely candidate. Interesting to see him going for that tablet instead of the Hellflower first. But right there did save him, so perhaps, and the Bound Eye for that matter, so perhaps a worthy investment. Kongor is dangerously low, though. Is this Legion team going to be able to react? It doesn't look like it. Fnatic raid call. Are you going to do it? Nope. Not going to happen. The token going to go into the hands of Forsaken Archer, but look at the item pickups here for Corrupted Disciple, going for a Soul's Bulwark and then a Whispering Helm. So he's now up to 24 armor, which is a hell of a lot here. Definitely going to help slow down the effects of that Frostwolf Skull as well as that Armadon.
Yeah, and that's very, very true. I mean, I guess he's simply figuring that, you know what, how many needs, this is going to be more about outlasting than just raw damage. And again, Corrupted Disciple tends to be one of those range carry heroes that will build that way, as we see right here. So he's going more of the beefy route of, I'm just going to outlast you. Know, obviously I wouldn't be surprised to see that eventually turn into a not only Soul's Bulwark to Demonic Breastplate, but the similar rage upgrade from the Whispering Helm. But that is definitely not in the near future. Would take a little bit of time to get especially both of those built up. But right now, Fnatic, you know, knocking on that door. Of course, they have the Token of Life, as we mentioned, on Forsaken Archer, so want to perhaps use that opportunity now. As, of course, Jeremiah also nearby. And Jeremiah picked up a Shrunken Head himself, by the way. Look at Bubbles tableting in, using the Song of the Sea, then porting out quickly after. So, special tactics there coming out from Bubbles. As also showing off his new Portal Key pickup. But the Legion team doing a fairly good job of at least turtling it up right here and holding Fnatic or BxF off from actually getting into the base. But, you know, you kind of wonder how long can they hold this up for.
Yeah, the bottom lane is starting to push up now, so Tempest actually going to go down to deal with it. Probably not the best candidate, as they need that ultimate. Right now, Fly is really in that crappy situation where he's got almost 2,000 gold saved up, but really nothing to show for it. You're really trying to avoid fighting at all costs until Tempest can pick up that portal key. So certainly explains why Fnatic sitting back so far, and maybe that's why Fly went down there. Maybe pick up a couple creep kills, get a little more gold. They really need that initiation power here, but Black Fade not backing that melee rack's taking a hell of a lot of damage. Fnatic's gonna have to make something happen pretty soon here. You know, Fly actually still on red boots, so it's gonna be hard for him to get this huge ultimate off unless the opposing team way overcommits. We'll see Forsaken Archer doing a lot of damage to Tempest. Fly gonna have to head back to the well and take a little bath real quick before he can continue with this fight.
Yeah, again, that goes back a little bit to that item decision of his. He obviously went the puzzle box level 3, but as powerful as it is, he doesn't have that opportunity, really nearly as effective an opportunity to get in there and get a good ultimate off. We see right here, look at that piercing arrows right on top. A great crippling volley to start that off. Bubbles will fall shortly after. There goes the melee reaction. I think Fnatic recall maybe falling apart right here in this game. At least Bubbles does buy back, so they're going to try to give it one last go right here. The Soul's Blessing activity, though, right as the Stomp comes out. However, still some good damage. Of course, the magic damage still will go through. Corrupted Disciple in the midst of it all. The Tempest ultimate, and this is a chance for Fnatic recall to make something happen right here. Will Corrupted Disciple stay alive? They get the kill for Forsaken Archer. Jeremiah goes down. Forsaken Archer comes back up, though. But look at the 10 conduit charges on Corrupted Disciple. He is hitting for 348 maximum damage right now, and he will eventually help hold them off. Forsaken Archer and Armadon still alive, and they're going to try to maybe beat their way at the range tracks, but no, they're now going to eventually fall back. So, wow, though. I mean, Corrupted Disciple, man, he showed his power right there. A great Tempest ultimate eventually. Like I said, 10 charges of that conduit, he will dish out a crazy amount of damage, as we saw.
Yeah, don't forget right there, I mean, they did have the token on Forsaken Archer, and it was burned in that fight. So had she not had the token, that fight would have gone much, much differently, though. Still rough for Fnatic Raidcall. I mean, losing that melee racks now, they're slowly running out of time here. They still have a chance to win this game. Again, the stats still very deceiving. They have a nice experience lead still. Not nearly as large as it was before, but still, they're in good shape. I mean, Tempest now has 2.5k gold. I would imagine Fly's going to be picking up a portal key here pretty quick. He is on level 3 puzzle box as well. With that portal key, another big Tempest ultimate like that, I would not count out Fnatic Raidcall.
Yeah, and, kind of another reason to perhaps invest in an item like a portal key, you could argue, too, is that look at the Hellborn team, and they're not necessarily the biggest stoppers of a channeling ability. You really got, you got Glacius is really the only one that can do it. Yeah, of course, Forsaken Archer, and then you got
that's not
that's not a stun though. It doesn't mini stun exactly. Yeah, that's why. No, Glacius, and then Ophelia with the Skeleton King if she happens to have one, or Minotaur or whatever else. But so that now that I look at that, I kind of think to myself, maybe actually Portal Key might have been the better investment here, and I am a little bit surprised that he isn't actually going for it right now. And again, since we keep stressing how big it is for them to lock down this Jerezai and get him killed, having a Portal Key on Tempest can by all means help accomplish that. So I really am wondering what Tempest is going to be going to follow this up. Maybe now if he does go for a shrunken head here, I could see that as well, not being too bad of an item choice, but I don't know. I think that portal key is actually pretty big here.
Yeah, I mean, you're right though. I mean, Shrunken Head is never a bad choice, but in this game, as we just talked about, there's such a lack of interrupt. It seems like kind of an odd item pickup here. I mean, the Hellborn side, as well as not having much interrupt, they really don't have a hell of a lot of initiation power either. I mean, they don't have anybody with a portal key. Sure, Armadon can be up in the front line to sort of try and bait some initiation, but they don't have that Meraxis, that Tempest, or even that Bubbles for that matter, to jump in and make it happen. Now, Fnatic Raidcall right now, one of their huge advantageous spots in this game is their ability to initiate between Bubbles and Meraxis. There we go. Fly going to pick up that portal key, pardon me. So they now have 3 portal keys compared to the none of the Hellborn side, and they need to make these initiations happen. They need to take these initiations and make them their own, and that's how they're going to win these fights. The Tempest ultimate just now coming up off cooldown, so they could try and make it happen here. If Black Fate continues to pressure, this could be a great time for Fnatic Raidcall. Both the mid and the bottom lanes are pushed back, and this really could be that window that they need.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you mentioned Tempest off to the side here. He's not going to make it obvious for the Legion team and where he's at, so he's hanging off to the side, trying to get the better positioning that way and see if he can find that opportunity. Nice word of sight placed here by Fntc. Initially 2, by the way, knowing that they were going to start pushing this lane. So they have full vision right now of BxF. They know exactly how they're positioned, and they're giving Tempest an opportunity. Now, Tempest does need to be a little bit careful here. If he starts to creep up a little bit, he will be spotted, and that could spell disaster for our Legion side. So Tempest does need to be very, very careful, and he is going to be spotted by the creep wave, I would think, too. Or maybe he's just uphill enough to not be, but here he goes. So yeah, he's going to be spotted now and won't be able to be too sneaky, at least for the time being. But, ooh, Null Fireblade just purchased by Corrupted Disciple. So I was wondering, are we ever going to see that? And it looks like, there you go, that kind of answers that question. That feeling that it indeed is necessary, although the idea may be to burst down Jerezai before he gets anything off. That hasn't really been accomplished yet. So I think getting that Null Fireblade actually is going to be a smart choice here from Corrupted Disciple. We'll see. Here we go. Barry Idol's activated in the front line. See the Vulture Lord spam that tornado in the front line. Here we go. Bubbles jumping in. More axes to follow up right there. Stunning for second archer. He gets storm speeded immediately. And Tempest off to the side. Spots his minions. Going on to Glacius. And Glacius dropping quickly. Jerezai uses everything on him. That could be the huge key right here, right now. The Soul's Blessing going to be his. There's the Tempest ultimate. Holding the ultimate down in the midst of it all. Corrupted Disciple pounding in the right click. Auto attack damage. Forsaken Archer dropping. And Forsaken Archer will go down right there. Corrupted Disciple is still alive in the back of the fight. He's chasing down this Armadon. Armadon will fall as well. Everyone's still alive for Fnatic Raidcall. Wow, that just happened right there.
Wow, now this just turned into a game-breaking CPK. Wow. Oh my, Glacius initiating that fight so poorly. That puzzle box from Fly proving to be super effective. And as you mentioned, Jerezai unloading everything on Glacius. He threw out the inner light, but more importantly, threw out the repel. Oh my gosh, talk about the worst target to be the recipient of Jerezai's support. 100% Glacius. That was a huge, huge play for Fnatic Raidcall, of course. They're not going to be able to counter push, though, which is really what's important from the eyes of Black Fade. We see a lot of buybacks available. Glacius the only one without enough gold for a buyback. So if they were to push, I mean, it would be stopped just about instantly. If they could feint some pressure to force some buybacks, that would be huge. But alas, they're not going to have enough time as they're going to be stuck defending their base. So, I mean, 1 or 2 more fights like that, and they may have a chance. All the while up in the top lane, though, Corrupted Disciple may find himself in a bit of a sticky situation. He's going to be able to survive this. He's going to use the images. Bubble's going to come in here and try and do everything that he can to keep Corrupted Disciple alive. Pardon me, Aluna going to come in as well. Insania's going to fall. Corrupted Disciple's going to pick up the kill and become a champion of Newark. He is going to juke that volley, though. The Frostwolf Skull doing a hell of a lot of work against him. Bubble's trying to slow him down. Is Era going to be able to survive this? He's running as fast as he can. The piercing arrow's not going to be quite enough, but there it is at the last second. Will secure the kill for Jereziah to pick it up, so that's going to be a nice little gold pick-me-up there for Jereziah. Now Luna going to be in big trouble. Fntc going to try and pour it out here. Is he going to be able to make it? Oh my gosh, and he does with 50 hit points to spare.
Wow.
He makes it out safe and sound. Big Fntc plays coming.
Opa! That was awesome. Woo. Wow, that was crazy. Now, wow, we've had a crazy sequence here. Corrupted Disciple, I mean, again, Era, love the guy, such an entertaining player to watch, but you do got to scratch your head a little bit of the logic of pushing up by himself at that top lane on a hero like Corrupted Disciple, who doesn't necessarily have that crazy getaway ability other than simply pure speed, but as we saw right there, was eventually chased down. He did end up getting help, but I still think that worked out better for Black Fade. So, yeah, not the greatest decision-making there from Era, unfortunately. Now, he does have money for a buyback, but I would hope that he wouldn't have to use it, especially with only 25 seconds left now before Resurrection, and it looks like he is just going to wait for the Resurrection. But I do kind of feel like that may have been very, very crucial here in this game right now. The fact that instead of sitting back and getting more and more farm in this game, perhaps this next big item, what is Bubbles doing? Dear God, you're playing risky. Wow!
Whoa!
No doubt! Going balls to the wall right there. What was he thinking? Somehow managed to get out of there. Okay, level 2 no fires purchased. Here we go. Once again, a Hellborn team. They are going to start falling back, obviously knowing that he's back up. And not enough damage to take out the tower by any means. The ranged Rax is still alive here in the middle lane, and Fnatic doing everything that they can to make sure that stays alive as well as pick up some farm. But yeah, I mean, again, though, it goes back to the point of Corrupted Disciple could have been farming that whole time and perhaps purchase his next big item beyond that level 2 Nullfire Blade. Say something like even a Shrunken Head, or I don't even know if that would be the best, but you get my drift, so.
Yeah, still, we've got a hell of a game on our hands here. I mean, one of the problems, though, is Forsaken Archer is continuing to get pretty farmed, just picking up a Slayer. Corrupted Disciple actually still leading the way in gold farm in this game, still sitting at around 430 GPM, so he's still in pretty damn good shape here. And really starting to pack quite the punch as well, as we've seen once he gets up to those 10 conduit charges. He becomes quite scary. Kongor attempt underway. Aluna going to use that red power throw here to scout it out, so of course Fnatic Raid Call is privy to said efforts. Aluna going to throw down a ward here, and they are going to at least pressure this Kongor kill first, force Black Fade back, which is definitely good news. I think if Black Fade picks up Kongor at any point from this time forward, they're really going to be in great shape, and it's going to make this so much more difficult for Black Fade. I mean, pardon me, for Fnatic Raid Call. Kongor definitely is going to become an important part of this match. As we see now, Era moving into the Kongor pit as well. Looking at the warding situation, the Hellborn's line only has one up here on the high ground. It will give some sight of the river, but I don't think it's going to give sight of Kongor's health. They do actually bring in the courier here to see how low Kongor is so they can pose an appropriate defense if Kongor gets low enough.
Yeah, so Forsaken Archer and Armadon going to just sit there in the middle lane and continue to farm, and now going over the Kongor pit. So Kongor, focus of attention here in game number 2 right now. Obviously 45 and now 46 minutes in, coming up to that mark here in game number 2, where Fnatic is up 1-0, but this game, man, Black Fade definitely looked like they were just going to start pulling through, but Fnatic Raid Call held their ground, hell of a stance, and they are holding it off, if not even, gaining advantages in certain places, but Kongor is going to drop now. I don't see them stopping this, and so yeah, Fnatic basically conceding Kongor right there, and it's just one of those unfortunate, they kind of had to, because you look at the bottom lane, it's getting massively pushed in. The middle lane was taking a bit of pushing itself. They really just couldn't risk the resources, frankly, in terms of defending and going for Kongor. That would have been it right there. I mean, that would have been the all-out battle, and they just didn't feel like they really had have the advantages there. And if anything, if they did stick around, then very likely BxF wouldn't have actually committed right there, and again, the lanes would have continued to push. So they had to make a decision, and they decided to defend their base, which, is definitely a smart one. So, but the Conqueror kill goes down in favor of the homeboard team, and Token of Life is going to be out for Forsaken Archer once again. And as he did the last time, it proved to be very, very impactful in that last fight he had it. So,
yeah. No, I definitely agree. This is part of that problem of losing that lane of racks early on. Part of the reason why in my mind I'm like, yeah, Fnatic is still in a good spot, but losing that lane of racks very early on hurts. And right there we saw it. They're sort of forced to concede Concord just because they want to defend the base, and they're definitely not comfortable engaging an all-out war in a 4v5 scenario. So they didn't really have too many other options, but now they're going to have to kill Forsaken Archer twice. I mean, killing her once is difficult enough given the huge amount of items that she's accumulated. Even sitting there with Mystic Vestments right now just to absorb some of that magic damage. We'll see. It looks like Fnatic Raid Call, though, up to some tricky business. Glacia's going to walk straight into the trap. You activated my trap card, Kaiba, and Glacia's actually going to survive, but he gets the repel. He's going to get that ultimate off, and they are going to be able to finish him. This fight going to continue, and waiting for that Tempest Soul. Jerizaiah going to use the Soul's Blessing here. Fly is going to get taken out before the ultimate can come down. He will buy back just about instantly, though, to make this happen. Oh, no. Corrupted Disciple going to fall. He's going to buy back as well, but Smack Donald picking up the hat trick. Still has the token in hand. I think this might be all she wrote for Fnatic Raid Call here in this fight. Somehow Hani got picked off to the side. They still have one last chance. Buybacks are being used. Fnatic Raid Call, one last stand. But if they don't make this happen, Breaky, I don't think they're going to have too many more opportunities.
Yeah, they're not going to come back. I mean, this is that last stand. Armadon will take the pressure. He gets a Protector Charm, purged off immediately, though. Frostfield play going to be used right there. You see Moraxis, he's forced to just run away as, I guess Ophelia ported out Armadon right there. Back to base, so probably a good decision as he was definitely taking a lot of damage. But now Armadon's not here to save them, so actually this may be pretty crucial. The Tempest ultimate, it only catches Jerizaiah, but it will lock him down long enough to get that kill. Forsaken Archer pounding in some damage in the background, trying to do enough right now. He will die, but of course the Token of Life going to bring him back up. But Ophelia may be in a little bit of trouble, but Armadon does eventually come back. And you look at Corrupted Disciple, though, standing his ground. He has that conduit channel, only 2 charges though, and now he's going 2 versus 1. That's not what he wants to be, especially with the piercing arrows in his face, and down he goes. So does he have buyback? He does not have money for a buyback. You see in the middle lane, the base continues to get destroyed, and that very likely did it right there. So Armadon buys post-haste after that death, after buying back, to get back into I was going to say, I mean, that actually could have been worse that he got ported out, but that is going to be the game, though. Fnatic will throw out the concede vote, and Black Fade takes the second game here, so obviously you know what that means. We're going to the third and final game.
Going into an ace match in the semifinals here in the It's Gosu May Open #2. So we've had a hell of a series so far. And again, I'm getting this like big black box instead of a chat server after the game, Breaky. having some problems here. I don't know what's going on. Anyhow, wow. Just wow. 2 50-minute games now. We're moving into game 3. I'm pumped, man. It's been a hell of a series so far. Both teams really looking strong. We'll see who can pull it out in the third match.